Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Sunday, October 16th. So today we have the moon in her place of power in Cancer energy all day. Of course, we are building towards the last quarter moon in Cancer here tomorrow, but today we are going to take the day to kind of retreat, to be a little bit closer to home, to kind of indulge in the things that are comfortable, familiar, that make us feel cozy and safe and secure. Now, emotionally speaking, we are hypersensitive with the moon in Cancer. We can be very defensive or overly protective of ourselves and our loved ones. We are really trying to find a new grounding point for our inner realm, our emotions. Of course, many of us have had a lot of situations really shake us up in our reality, and therefore we're kind of all over the place with our emotions. This is going to be a great time for us to kind of slow down, settle things out, and really get in touch with what it is that we need to do in order to nurture ourselves back to a place of stability, safety, and security. Today is a relatively quiet day. There are only 6 different aspects taking place here today, 4 of them involving the moon. So the moon is going to get into the boxing ring with Mercury. Of course, Mercury rules over the mental plane while the moon rules over our heart space. Our heart space is very sensitive, very tender at this particular point in time. If you haven't listened to this week's ascension forecast, you should probably do that. We have huge heart activations taking place this week, and it's all starting with the moon being in its place of power in Cancer. Now, Mercury is in Libran energy, and we are kind of building towards the last degrees that Mercury has to retrace his steps about as far as where he was at when he first went retrograde back at the beginning of September. Fun fact, we have the last quarter moon in Cancer. We also have Mercury busting out of his post-shadow period here on the 17th, on this energy cycle, if you will, here tomorrow. But until then, we are still very kind of reflective. We're very much trying to tie up loose ends, make sense of some of the things that have happened. Now, any time that the moon and Mercury aren't really getting along, aren't in a comfortable aspect with one another, our heart and our head do not agree. We do not feel in alignment. We are struggling within ourselves. We're having a hard time trying to get our own selves on the same page, and it adds an extra layer of trying to articulate and communicate our thoughts, our emotions, our ideas to other people. So one of the big things that we got going on here is that we're super indecisive, we're super confused, and that has been an ongoing issue, especially, we've had all of these retrograde planets. We've had Mercury go retrograde. We're just coming out of this. Now we're in the wind tunnel, sucking us into this eclipse energy. And of course, with Mercury being in Libran energy, we're on the fence about everything anyways. So there is this inner conflict. Now, we do have Mercury going ahead and interacting with the true node. The true node, of course, is our soul's path, our destiny point, trying to get us on the right path of alignment in order to actually move forward. These two are interacting in a good way, which does suggest that Mercury, being the ruler of the mental plane, being in this Libran energy, trying to weigh out the pros and cons of our ideas, of our choices, of our options, we are really trying to push the boundaries on what the next move actually looks like, what the plan looks like, what the strategy looks like. And for the most part, we may gain a little bit of insight seeing that this is a positive interaction with the true node, trying to, again, get us in alignment with what it is that we need to pursue from here. Now, things are going to get a little bit difficult when the sun interacts with Neptune in not the nicest way. So here we have the sun in Libran energy. Of course, the sun is our life force energy. It's where we need to pour our time, energy, and attention into in order to kind of reach this goal. What is the goal? Well, we're in Libran energy. So the goal is to find stability, to find balance, to make peace, to find harmony. And of course, as we've been exploring, we don't arrive at those things very easily. We do have to kind of sit in the extremes in order to work our way to that goal. And it doesn't feel good. Now, we bring Neptune into the mix. Neptune is retrograde in Pisces energy in its place of power. Neptune, when it is not in a favorable aspect, kind of brings out the shadow realm of Neptune's energy, of Pisces energy. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, we're confused, we're overwhelmed, we're overstimulated, we're feeling too much. We can't really pinpoint our intuition, our higher self. We are low on energy. We're having a very difficult time trying to complete a thought, to gain a vision, to gain a dream. And everything is kind of wish-washy. Everything is kind of vague. Everything is very unclear. Now, let me just say this. A lot of this is because many of us have ignored the spiritual practice that we need. Many of us have ignored really throwing ourselves into activities that would stimulate our imagination, our creativity. Many of us, again, kind of falling victim to the physical realm and the circumstances that we're in, which doesn't leave a whole lot of room for magic, for possibilities, for just, wide open thinking, if you will. So this particular aspect, likely not going to feel good, going to highlight for us where it is that we're not feeling so sure about things, where we're not certain about anything, where we're really having a problem trying to decide. Because again, Mercury being in Libran energy is dependent on our physical realms, on the data, statistics, information, details of our physical realm. And when we do that, there's no hope. There's no magic. There's no possibilities. There's nothing there because we are limiting ourselves to what we think is possible from our egoic mind. So this is kind of a huge indicator that our energy isn't right. We're not in alignment. Take a good look around at who you're surrounding yourself with. Maybe they're sucking your energy dry. Maybe they're speaking fears into your dreams. We really do have to eliminate those negative forces that we choose to surround ourselves with. And when we can kind of narrow down what is ours to feel, to think, to experience, and what is other people's, we can, implement a spiritual boundary, if you will. The whole goal here, because the Neptune and Pisces energy does pick up on subtle energies of everything and everybody around us, the whole goal is trying to identify how it is that we actually feel, what it is that is our energy. And once we can identify what is actually ours to own, to feel, to think, to experience, then we can get down to the nitty-gritty on where it is that we have been blocking ourselves from the creative forces, from imaginary land, from the possibilities of the magic of the cosmos, of the universe. We really do have to work on at least opening ourselves up to something other than just what this physical realm is dictating to us. So this is a little bit of a lull. Now, the moon is going to bump into Saturn. Saturn, of course, still retrograde. He's in his final week of being retrograde. Again, take a listen to this week's ascension forecast. Take a listen to October's energy forecast. Download your zodiac forecast for the month because Saturn coming out of a retrograde is a big deal. Now, this is going to help us sort out our thoughts. This is going to help us kind of compartmentalize some feelings. And this is also going to illuminate for us where it is that we have to work a little bit harder to create new routines, new foundations, new systems for ourselves. Why? Because again, many of us have closed the door on our spiritual practice. Many of us do not even, have a spiritual practice. And again, the spiritual practice is kind of putting yourself in situations to use your creative energy, your magical energy, instead of the logical, practical side of your brain. So the moon interacting with Saturn in this way, lucky for us, it's a positive aspect. Otherwise, we could really take a very dark turn in our emotions and in our mental narrative. But this is almost like we're getting grounded. We're realizing, we have to be logical, we have to be practical, but we also have to open up our heart, our mind, our lives to the magic of the cosmos, to restore our faith, to restore our spirit. And to do so in a way, a realistic type of way, a practical kind of way, that means that we have to build better routines, systems, space within our lives in order for us to kind of dabble in that kind of energy work that, of course, many of us are lacking. The moon is going to sextile the true node. This is beautiful. This does kind of suggest that we're giving ourselves a little bit of a minute here to move into the heart space, to actually kind of, see what is going on in the heart space without allowing the mental plane to just tear our emotions apart. Meaning, the mental plane always relies on the logical, practical explanation. It wants to make sense of things. And sometimes emotions don't make sense. Sometimes we can't compartmentalize emotions. So this is almost like, especially after this interaction with Saturn, this is almost like, you know what? You're right. I do have to kind of, be the babysitter within myself and see where it is that my egoic mental plane is too dependent on trying to make sense of everything, too dependent on, acting from that logical, practical, intellectual place, and where it is that I just have to sit with myself and see what comes up, because emotions are the internalized compass that we need to be following, not our egoic intellect. So it's almost like we give ourselves permission to go inward. We sit with ourselves. We're really paying attention to what's going on in our inner realm. And because of this, we get a little bit of an aha moment. We get a little bit of a flash of insight. We get a little bit of a flicker in our spirit, in our soul, on what it is that we want to do. Not what it is we think we should do, not what it is we think others want us to do, but what it is that our heart, our soul wants us to do. And of course, all we need is a little bit of a spark, a little bit of a aha moment in order for us to realize what step we could take in our realm in order to actually pursue whatever spark gets ignited within us. And the true node being our soul's destiny point, trying to get us on the right path to formulate some kind of plan to pursue these new passions, these new desires. It does kind of feel like we're making a little bit of headway, trying to figure out where it is that we could even just align our energy, our focus on what it is that we need to create within ourselves, within our reality, within our realm, in order to bring some of the magic back. Now, here's where things get funky. The moon is going to go ahead and square, get into the boxing ring, create a little bit of conflict and tension with Chiron, the wounded healer, who is retrograde in Aries energy. So if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you would know that there is a pattern every single time that we align with our intuition, that we gain a vision, that we grasp a dream, that we feel like we're making a huge leap forward. Those dark force energies kind of creep in to pull us back. Again, they don't want us to grow. They don't want us to improve. They sure as hell don't want us to align with the magic and the possibilities of the universe. So that's when we typically see a funk take over. This is a prime example of that. Just when we got a glimmer of hope, where we started feeling a little bit good, where we did gain a little bit of a vision and grasp a dream on where it is that we should be aligning our energy to, tap into what it is that our heart wants. And then the dark force energies come and start speaking fear into that. Now, let me just say this. The shadow element of the moon being in Cancer energy is A, super defensive, B, very passive aggressive, C, kind of victim mentality if we let ourselves go there, D, very insecure and very indecisive, and we're in Libra season, which is just going to amplify that. So here we have, I'm sure there's probably a lot more. I'm sure I could probably name off a lot more and go through the letters of the alphabet in doing so, but we are overly paranoid. We are just when we are opening ourselves up to being bold and brave and courageous enough to put ourselves out there in a new way, or to align with a new passion or pursuit, or just when we're open-minded and open-hearted enough to see where it is that we have to make a change in our lives, the dark force energies kick in and kind of paralyze us from doing that. And the moon being in Cancer energy is already predisposed to being overly attached to the past, overly attached to the way that things are, even if we know that we want to change, that we desire change, we kind of become so scared of losing what it is that we currently have that we're not willing to take any risks to see what it is that we can gain. And the unfortunate part about the moon being in Cancer energy is that sometimes we're in situations that aren't good for us, but they're familiar, they're predictable. And sometimes, even though we're praying out to whoever it is that we pray to for change, sometimes even if change is knocking on the door, we pretend that we don't hear it, because that would require us to basically put our hopes and faith into putting ourselves out into foreign territory, and we don't know what to expect out in foreign territory. Yeah, there's a chance that we might align ourselves with a reality that is better fitting for us and makes us feel better and is a better situation for us, but there's always that what if. What if this situation that I'm currently not happy with is as good as it's going to get? But again, may I remind you, that is a limiting belief. And again, our mental plane does an absolute number on us when we reach a certain vibration and frequency where we tap into that boldness and bravery in order to make a change and to push ourselves forward. So the moon entering into the boxing ring here with Chiron, the wounded healer, is really going to tear us down. We do have to try to have a little bit of strength and discipline over our internalized mental dialogue, because things can get dark. And we do it to ourselves, which is the worst part. So it is advisable just to have a heads up that we are going to make some progress throughout the day. We are aligning with our heart space. We are feeling good about some of the things that we are, thinking about and feeling and trying to align with. But just when we kind of reach that point of excitement or peace or mission or purpose, things may start to fall apart.